Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Everything Happens for a Reason podcast. So, I have a very special guest with me today, Alice.
Hello.
She does not know what I'm going to ask her, so she's a little bit worried. And Alice is actually an online coach herself. Have you always done online coaching?
Yes. Well, I mean, how long now? I'd say going on 9 years now.
Oh, okay, that's a long time.
Long time. But it was I was a PT, and then I was half online, half PT, and then come COVID, moved full-time online. Best thing I've ever done.
Yeah, and were you still living at home, or were you always living out here?
Yes, so I spent a good amount of time here, and then went back to the UK during the lockdown, just before lockdown actually, because I started my career in bodybuilding. And obviously here at that time there was no shows really. It was very quiet around the bodybuilding scene here. Spent a couple of years in the UK, and then after COVID it was pretty much like I went fully online and then moved my life back here again.
Love it. I didn't know you actually competed.
Yeah 5 years.
Stop.
Yeah.
Love that.
Did we never speak about that?
No, we have never spoke about that, but no, love that. How did you find the compete, or like what made you stop it?
Probably what we're going to speak about really, as I kind of went on my own journey as evolving as a person and not just attaching myself to identities and validation from certain things, and just as an evolution as a person, it started to become very much like, I'd say I became disassociated from what that was.
Yeah.
And that was a journey in itself, which serves a purpose to where I'm at today as well, I think. But I always say, like, never say never. It's not like I had this definitive line of like, oh, I'm retired, I'm done. I kind of just was like, I don't really want to do this anymore.
Yeah.
It was quite a nice ending as well. It wasn't catastrophic. I didn't have a negative relationship with food. I actually healed a lot from 2018 right up until 2022, or 2017. But yeah, it was a good journey.
I love that, and it's good that you came out of it sort of with the right intentions,
100%.
because I feel like a lot of people have so much backlash after like they decide to stop competing, or they're like, oh, it's just a few years and then I'm gonna go again, because it can be quite an obsessive sport, right?
Yeah.
And when you were in it, did you find that you were like, this is the only thing I'm focusing on and everything else got pushed aside?
Yeah, so how I started, again, my first ever show was the worst experience I've ever had.
That's not good.
With the worst prep, like I came in paper thin shredded. There was no knowledge or expertise around it at that time really. And then I came out of it with horrendous disordered eating and body dysmorphia. But then I actually loved the element of stage, and like, because I competed in fitness model federations. So for me, I was a dancer at a young age. So then it became like performing. So I enjoyed that side of it. So I was in a catch-22, because I was like, I absolutely love this element of it, but I cannot go through that again. And then mentally and emotionally, physically, my whole body was destroyed after that first show. And I actually didn't say I was stepping back on stage. I took all pressure off me and I thought, right, I really want to heal every element of this, especially with food, especially with my body, and connecting back to my body again, because it destroyed a lot of things, especially hormonally. Now, back then, especially binge eating disorder, it was never openly widely discussed. Now it is. But back then I remember I didn't even tell anyone. So I dealt with it very much internally. But I went on that journey, and 18 months later, I was able to step on stage again. And I remember saying at the beginning of this prep, if I feel triggered at any point during this prep, I'm pulling out. I'm not doing it. And I managed to go through the prep, look the best I've ever looked, had an amazing prep. And then on the reverse of the prep, I felt amazing as well. And then that just obviously opened up the journey for the next couple of years. Then that led me to like my last show, 2022. I remember stepping on stage, best I've ever felt. Didn't even feel like I prepped, because my prep was just like life. I never stopped doing life as well. So it was very much like bipolar opposite from when I started, because my journey just continued. I remember stepping on stage and being like, I don't feel anything. I just like, I was like, there's no real excitement or enjoyment there anymore, because I'd achieved everything I needed to achieve, but I'd got to a point personally that I wasn't chasing validation anymore through trophies, shiny objects, labels, status. And I think it finally clicked at that moment. It's like, yeah, you don't really have to do this anymore. And then opened up the next chapter of like actually being able to connect to my body in a totally different way and not following a process all the time.
Yeah, 100%. And it's funny how like it sort of started off for you, and it sounds like you were very self-aware as well when you were competing, because so many people, like you said, back then binge eating wasn't discussed, disordered eating wasn't discussed. It was like, this is what you do, fuck your hormones, fuck your period, like none of that was important, you know what I mean? And like nobody spoke about it, whereas I feel like even in the bodybuilding world still, it is a wee bit like normalized, like, oh sure, you'll get your period back whenever. Like I feel like not enough women have enough knowledge around it, but it's really good that you had that awareness back then as well. And like you said, it opened up something completely different for yourself when it comes to connecting to your body and that side of things. And that's actually what I wanted to speak to you about, because I remember the first day we met, you made us all do an exercise. Do you remember this?
The human pendulum.
What?
The human pendulum.
That. Yes, that. And you know what? It was very, very interesting. And where did you explain what it is, and where did you learn this?
Okay, so the human pendulum is basically it's called the human compass as well. It's basically really deeply connecting and allowing your body to literally sway you in a direction of like maybe yes or no if you're asking a question. And really for me, this is where like our body keeps the score of everything. Our body knows, our body tells us so many signs, signals, but also we can be deeply connected to our intuition as well, our gut. So the human compass, or the human pendulum, however you want to call it, is just a nice little thing to do sometimes when you're trying to like, okay, what decision shall I make, yes or no, and just try and connect within. I don't really know how else to explain
it's just letting your body essentially answer the question for you. And I feel like it can be almost reassuring, because whenever you did it, I was like, I can see why like people will trust this, because like to other people they'd be like, what the hell's going on, like make up your mind kind of thing. But I can also understand people that do sort of trust themselves, that would help them come to the final conclusion, especially obviously if it's something bigger, like a bigger decision they have to make in life, right? But where did your sort of journey of like connecting to your body, that spirituality, and like you said there about your intuition, everything being linked to your gut, where did that start from for you?
I would say, do you know what, it did actually start initially from the early competitive days, but going beyond before that, I think as a child I was always curious. I was always knew there was something more. I remember I used to play with cards all the time, and also used to like rub my eyes a lot to be able to see different colors. Like I just remember that, and I remember being able to go into a meditative state as a child. I don't know what for, like at the time, don't remember, but there was always something, that level of curiosity and playfulness there. So but how I eventually started to unpack and unfold that, I'd say that part of you, because I truly believe like people might be like, oh, she's so spiritual, but actually that's a label and it's an identity. But I don't believe it's an identity, because if you think about the spirit that lives inside of you, that's just a part of us, right? So it's being able to tap into that side of it, however you perceive that. But initially, competing obviously weighs heavy on everything, mentally, emotionally, physically. And during that time as well, it was around, so 2017, 2018 was my first shows. And then when I went on that journey of like really understanding what was going on with like binge eating disorder, body dysmorphia, there almost at that part of the time started to be that bit more of an unfolding as to like, but why do you like hate this one body that is staring back at you in the mirror, that's still moving for you every single day? And then I actually went through into a relationship, and I remember at the back of that relationship, because the breakup was quite a shock and it was very like traumatic as such, I remember off the back of that was like my pivotal moment of where, you know, a lot of people say they'll have their awakening at some point. I remember during that breakup, I was just at the kind of like rock bottom of like, what do I do? And I, this is going to sound really weird, but I remember at the middle of the night, I woke up, it was like 3 or 4 a.m. and they say that's like the witching hour. And I remember walking outside, down the stairs from my bedroom at the time, walked outside onto the patio, and it was a full moon. I remember looking up to the moon and thinking, I actually said, like, help me. What do I do? And I don't know what led me there. Like, it's not like it was conscious, you know, I did it very subconsciously. So that really started to then unpack and unfold a lot of things for me when I started to, because I feel like I was connected to the moon, I then started to research and look into the moon, and not necessarily research, like you can't really read books about this stuff, you know. It's kind of like a feeling within, and then you kind of start to navigate the way. And I always say the right people get put on your path when you need to learn something new as well. So all of a sudden all these people just kept coming on my path. So like I connected with somebody who ran circles cyclically with the moons, which is something I also do now, and I started to learn a lot through that, but that brought a deeper connection to my body as well, and starting to understand how I can connect the dots with all of that too. So it very much like unfolded, but I think it's something that was always there, but it was untapped at that time previously. But the traumas that I kind of did go through with bodybuilding, with relationships, it kind of all came to a head at that point. And from, I'd say, about 2019, that's when things started to really like awaken and open up for me.
100%, because as you were explaining that, I was actually going to ask you about, you know, that spiritual awakening. Do you feel like you had that, or like what was that like for you? And obviously you sort of explained that, and I do genuinely believe that everybody has that like pivotal moment in their lives where they're like, it's like faith, right? It's like people sometimes turn to God or the universe, whatever it is that they believe in, because I feel like we can often reach a point where we just don't know what to do. It's like, what can help me that's outside, that's bigger than me, that's outside that power. And that's actually how like I started this podcast. So like everything happens for a reason. Like I said to you before we started, is like that concept of like every single one of those shitty things we go through, or those traumatic experiences, or anything that hurts us, it opens the doorway to different paths, right? And then different people come in. Like I'm such a believer in like, say they're going to be a blessing or a lesson, and like you can take something away from every single person you meet. And you sort of mentioned that yourself as well, like people were coming in that like women's circles and stuff like that they were running, and that's exactly what you were looking for at the time.
100%. And I think also something that I say to everybody is you will repeatedly experience awakenings. Like you don't just have this one and then boom, that's it. That's
you're healed.
You are. Like, and I always say as well, when people have that first initial, oh my God, like there's so much more happening here. Wow, this is so exciting. I call it like the kind of spiritual honeymoon phase. Yeah. Because you'll have that phase, and then like then you'll really start to experience like what healing does actually look like, because it's really not pretty. You're being shown a lot of like your shadows, and it's being able to embrace that and work with them and work through that as well. So as you go on that journey, you will repeatedly have awakenings upon awakenings, and you'll hit different kind of curveballs in your life. And it's coming back to that, like everything is happening for you, not to you. And it's being able to surrender in that moment and go, okay. And like you said, knowing that there's something bigger, and it doesn't matter whatever the label might be for you, down to your faith or whatever. For some people, it's the universe, God, Allah, the creator, source, whatever it might be. It's surrendering to that higher power and going, okay, it's happening for me. How do I navigate from here? It's
out of my control, and that's it. And do you think, like, because I'm a big believer of a lot of people, like you said, they will keep going through these things, and like there's a lesson in everything, right? And sort of like, because it's happening for you and it's not something that's against you, I feel like a lot of people fall into the victim mentality, and then 100%. That stalls their healing journey, or whatever you want to call it, by so much, simply because they are so comfortable in sitting in that discomfort. And like, for yourself, do you feel like you've been on this healing journey over the last couple of years?
Yeah. Well, it doesn't stop. Once you've entered, it's like, I call it like, it's like a game of Candy Crush, you know? Like, you're kind of trying to surpass a level, and each time you just get
there's just more and more
knocked down, and then you like finally have your breakthrough on the other side. So I think it's recognizing that victim mentality, it's often avoidance, and it's often where people do not want to hold a mirror up to themselves, and essentially like healing, whatever you want to call it, like that's essentially the whole journey. And where people come into your life, I always say, you know, it's a season, a reason, or a lifetime. And say, for example, especially me previously going through quite traumatic relationship, especially when I was younger, and then in my teens especially. So it's about looking at that, and I could be like, well, why did that happen to me? Why me? Yeah. But then essentially it's going, okay, what can I take from that and learn and implement so that I can honor my own boundaries next time, so that I don't have that repeated cycle.
That's exactly it. It's like holding the mirror up as well, right? Because obviously there's shit people in the world, they're going to hurt you with just menace behind it, and that's it. It's not a reflection of you, but a lot of the time it teaches us about us. So it's not like, they treated you like shit because you're a shit person, but it's like, did you have your boundaries in place? What's your self-worth like? Do you believe that you deserve better, you know? So it's like reflecting back into yourself, how do I attract people that aren't going to treat me like this, or that actually deserve me for who I am? And obviously a lot of the time that will come down to potentially you having to level up a little bit, or you heal those certain aspects of yourself as well. But with this, a question I'm going to ask you, do you feel we can ever be fully healed?
So my honest answer, so I actually got asked this question in a room of like 120 people, and I got given the mic. It was along the same lines. They asked, do you ever think you know who you truly are? And then I essentially, when you asked me that question, I kind of reflect that back as the same question, because it's like, how would you know you're ever fully healed? But how do you truly know who you actually are? Because 5 minutes from now, something could happen to me. 10 minutes from now, 1 hour from now, 4 hours from now, tomorrow, something that could happen that could shift my entire paradigm of how I think, how I feel, how I act. So I think in the moment, sure, you can feel a certain way, but I wouldn't then do that as like, okay, that's it, I'm done. Because how I kind of talk about healing and that kind of side of your journey is we are evolving every single day as humans. Like, and we are a form of nature. So what you've got to recognize is that if you think about it like this, like flowers, plants, or anything of that form of nature, they don't like think hard about how they need to grow. They just do, because they have all of the natural things that are giving them that energy to grow. So often we need to remember, like, and that's also a continuous journey, right? If you look at the seasons and like where, you know, like seeds that were planted in, you know, let's say winter are going to come to bloom in spring and summer. So that's a continuous cycle of evolution. And I believe truly that we are the same as humans. So when you make peace with the fact that there's no final destination, that's when you can, and rather look at it as like, enjoy the journey. That's where the beauty of life is. It's never really reliant on like that final destination of like, okay, when I'm healed, I'll do this. When I'm then, I'll do this. It's about, no, fully embrace who you are today. Know that you're always growing no matter what, and evolving as a human, and enjoy the ride.
Absolutely. And I couldn't agree more with you on that, because like you said, something could happen in literally 5 minutes that could change everything. And it could be a potential traumatic experience. And a lot of people, and I'm just thinking of a couple of my friends that have maybe been through heartbreaks, right, or broken up, or their partners have broken up with them or whatever, and at the time, of course, you feel lost. You're like, why is this happening? Why is it me? What did I do? You know, you sort of internalize it, and then they naturally start to heal through that breakup, right? And all of a sudden they're acting like themselves again, they're happier, and they get into a new relationship, and the same thing happens again, and they're just like, I have to start again. But you'll never be the person you were in your last relationship, in the last year, in your business, because every single day you move through that, or every single bit of pain you go through, you learn something from it, right? So it might just be a different thing that's being brought up this time that you have to look into.
100%. Do you know something that I hear a lot, and you'll probably hear this a lot, when I'm speaking to women, essentially, if they're wanting to sign up maybe or start their journey, this phrase is, I just want to get back to where I was pre-baby or pre-relationship or pre-breakup. I just want to feel back to myself again. And I call them out on that language straight away, because it's like, okay, let's just say we get you back to that body shape, that body size, wherever you thought you were the most comfortable. I want you to think about taking yourself back there, basically undoing all of this kind of process now. Do you want to go back to the belief system you had there, the experiences that you've felt during that time, the, you know, relationships that you may have had during that time? So everything comes with that energy. So actually, like, if they're wishing to go back, they're not actually embracing the now or being present with what they actually can do now. And this is where a lot of people with that language especially will approach the journey from a space of lack, not love. And approaching anything from lack, fear, scarcity is never ever going to give sustainability. So that's again a sign of avoidance, being able to sit with themselves now to go, okay, like, how can I love myself into the best place possible now?
Today.
Not just 6 months from now, 3 months from now, it's now. So this is often something I hear a lot. It's like, I want to go back to then. I'm like, no, you don't want to go back, because do you really want to go back to that toxic relationship or like how you were treated back then? No, you don't. So that's, it's very resonant.
100%. And we hear it. I feel like women are more like prone to be saying things like that, like you said, pre-baby, or, you know, back when I was 18. And like, one thing I always like tell them to look at is like, why? Because it's usually linked to emotion, right? So the reason they want to be 60 kg again is because when they were 60 kg, they got to wear a dress that they felt really confident in, right? So it's confidence, that's the emotion that they're chasing. But what a lot of people don't realize is like, your values, your expectation, everything changes over that time. And it's like, do you want to just feel confident at 60 kg because you felt good in that dress for the 2 months that you were at 60 kg? Or do you want to feel confident as a mother to show up as the best mother for your child? Like, and that is usually the answer. They just maybe don't know it at the time, right? Because they've never lived the experience of being confident as a mother, because they were never a mother beforehand. So I always like tell them to dive deeper, like, but why is that where you want to be? Because like you said, back then, okay, you might have been, you had a better body than you do now, or you felt that way, but were you truly happy? Like, were your values the same, or like, have your values evolved? There's so much more that comes with that. But that can be in anything, right? Like, obviously we're in the coaching industry, so it's easy to relate to that. But it's like, even with us looking back and thinking, 2 months ago I had a really busy business month, but now I'm not busy. That shouldn't affect your self-worth, right? It's like, right, okay, I was busy then, had an amazing month. This is what's going on in my life at the minute. What can I do to improve on this? Or like, how can we work through it, kind of thing. But I notice you speak a lot about energy. What does energy mean to you?
Ooh, that's a tough question. So energy is everything. Energy is all around us. Like, we are literally made up of tiny, tiny atoms, like all vibrating together, and that's what creates everything. That table, our bodies, that statue over there, you know, everything is energy. So essentially, we're all going to be vibrating at different levels. And when you look at that overall, like, it really does affect a lot of things. Like, it affects a lot of things in your life, emotionally, mentally, physically. But you've got 3 layers in your body. You've got the physical layer, you've got the mental layer, you've got emotional layer, but the one layer that a lot of people forget about is the energetic layer. If you just sat here now and really still and focused on that energetic layer, so for example, you might start to feel like tingling sensations. Like, for those that are listening to this podcast, try it. Because
lie there and relax.
And that's where we've got to recognize, okay, like, this isn't just a woo-woo thing. And if you think it is, like, you need to look at like what sound does to water. It formulates like different shapes when you kind of especially put water in a sound bowl and move it around. And Even have you seen the experiment with putting like rice in a jar, and one of them's like labeled like all positive affirmations on it, and the other one all, and you just every day there was an experiment of like talking really kindly to this jar, and then the other one is like sabotaging it, like the language around that, and you should have seen the difference in what that does. That's why I say, you know, your words, your thoughts, how you perceive yourself, how you portray yourself, everything matters, because we're all just vibrating on these different levels of energy. And this is why it's really important that if you're like in a job, especially our job, where we're constantly connecting with people, we are constantly connecting with their energy. So if we're not doing anything to protect our energy or cleanse our energy field, we're going to absorb all of that. So for example, like you spend loads of time like scrolling on social media or like talking to people all day long and socially interactive, you probably end that day feeling very drained. It's because you're taking on a lot of people's energy, especially if you're speaking to people that have like quite a lot of problems or emotional, like, you know, anything. You're holding space for these people, which is beautiful, but equally we need to make sure we're holding space for ourselves to clear and cleanse that. So in a long-winded way of saying what is energy, it's all around us. You just need to be open enough to feel into it, but also like respect it and honor it and honor your own energy as well.
Absolutely. And I went to an event, like this was years ago, and it was like a coaching event, right? And basically they had like different sectors for that day, like focusing on different things, and one of the things were like mindset and basically looking after your mental health as a online coach, right? And they actually said, and I never ever thought about it until like I heard this man say it, and he basically said like online coaches are one of the loneliest people out there, and a lot of the time they end up in like a very, very dark place. And it's not because they don't look after themselves, because obviously naturally with our jobs we move our bodies, we eat well, do you know what I mean, we train, so that's not even the issue, but we take on everybody else's energy, right? And with our job comes a lot of problem solving. So what that means is people are coming to you with their problems, and you're taking those on and trying to help them. But because we don't talk to anybody else outside that, and our jobs are so isolated, like you said, you keep all that energy, which can really, really bring you down. And the way they sort of described is like, even when you're a PT on the gym floor, you probably don't notice it as much, because you might have a client in who's, you know, complaining about her husband and the kids and everything else, and you're like, you go away and you speak to the other PT, or you have a giggle with your co-workers, and you're releasing that energy then. So you're not keeping it within you. But in our job, it's so important to actually have that outlet, like you said, whatever that looks like for you, to just ground yourself again. Like for me, I need to spend time alone. Being around people will drain me more than, you know, not being alone. Whereas when I'm alone, I can actually have time to think what it is that I want, how do I feel, and you sort of really ground yourself. But I always find that interesting, because I never thought of it like that, but it's so true.
And I'd say to be in a position as we are, like coaches, but even this expands beyond coaching, teachers, carers, like people that work in like hospitality especially as well, like healthcare, like pretty much any job that is involved with people or helping people, giving energy to people, like naturally that's going to be a time where you need to kind of connect more with yourself and ground yourself more. And I'd say being in this role especially, you're going to be naturally quite empathic and being an empath. So essentially you have to recognize, okay, how do I charge my body battery up? Because if you don't know how to do that, you'll never know how to balance out your energy. So and everybody's different, everyone's different. So really recognizing actually what is currently draining me, and kind of doing this exercise of thinking about a battery pack of being empty and one being full. That's your body. So having that assessment of like, what currently drains me. And it's, for example, some people might be like, oh, my boss or this person. It's not like you can leave your job overnight, right? So you got to then look at what amplifies your energy. And when I say amplifying my like energy, it's rather than like remove all the materialistic things, like what actually makes your soul sing, like, and your spirit lift up, and what actually helps you feel alive or charged up. When you've got that clear data, I'd say data from yourself, you then will start to know how to navigate that better. and it comes with the experience of being in this kind of job role, especially, is like constantly holding up a mirror to yourself to go, okay, why am I feeling like this? Let me just do a bit of a self-tracking. Where have I dropped the ball on the things that actually help me stay grounded? Because that can often happen as well. I'm not going to sit here and say I'm perfect and like every day is amazing. But then again, it always comes back to where our boundaries are as well, because that's a big thing too.
And awareness, right? Because like you even said, like if it's your boss, you can't fall into that victim mentality and be like, they're a dick, I don't like working with them, I don't like working for them, and then just sit in that. Like what are you doing to like ground yourself, to bring yourself back to your body and that side of things? And like, yes, you can't leave your job overnight, but is that something potentially you do want to change? Because naturally that's going to bring your energy up. So sometimes you do have to ask yourself the hard questions that you're not going to like the answers to a lot of the time, or learning how to let things that are out of your control be out of your control, you know.
And I think, do you know what, it's going back to what I said before, is a lot of people, when they find themselves in victim mentality, they're stuck in avoidance. Now often a lot of language I hear was like, oh, but like that's just me, that's just life. Acceptance
of the wrong things.
Again, and it's like, okay, so, and this is often like what a lot of women, they come on our journey for, obviously, you know, transformation in some way, but a lot of my clients end up with promotions, total career change in direction, like so divorces, marriages,
love it,
like breakups, you know, we've got it all going on. But that's essentially because you are bringing awareness, you're being able to hold up a mirror to them, and they're able to go, oh, wow, like I didn't think about it like that. Because essentially, like how I explain it is like, if you have never worked with a coach, if you've never worked with a mentor, mindset, whatever it is, you're stuck in your own paradigm of thinking all the time. So it's then really hard to break out of that paradigm and think on a different level, which is why it's so amazing to invest in coaches. Like I still invest in coaches and mentors now, even 15 years down the line from my first ever coach. So because you're constantly breaking out of your own paradigm. So when you have somebody challenging you on that and going, actually, it's not just you, that's what you're choosing, because they've never actually had the belief in them to think, okay, well, if I hate my boss, well, actually, I don't have to put up with it.
Yeah.
And then actually on the other side of that, do you actually enjoy your job? Maybe not. Okay, where do your passions lie? I've had one of my clients been like, I actually love animals. So I'm like, okay, like if you love animals, what would you see yourself? Well, yeah, I've actually never actually thought about it, because I just thought I had to be in this job. I was like, and she's now taking the steps to go get qualified with veterinary.
Like, well, that is the thing. You're never stuck, right? Like you're never stuck, and you can change the trajectory of your life at absolutely any point. And I think what you've described there, like you said, if you're not surrounding yourself with different people who push you to think different, you will be stuck on that frequency, right? Because especially maybe like clients that are joining us, they might have low self-esteem, they're not confident, low self-worth. When you're in that and you don't see anything outside of that, you make that part of your identity, right? So like you said, then they're telling themselves, this is just the way I am. You don't have to be. That is a choice, right? But I also understand when your like vibrations are off and your frequencies at that lower point, it's very hard to see anything different, because I feel like people that are stuck there, they're looking at other people thinking, oh, they're just lucky. They've just done the work.
No, they're just chosen different. It's essentially, I always say to people, you are literally the co-creator of your own life. Like where you are right now, whether you like it or not, is a byproduct of all your decisions and choices in life. Yes, we get served some really shit sandwiches sometimes, but we can either choose that to help us grow or stay the same. So, and again, it's coming back to like, who are you surrounding yourself with? It's that saying of like, you know, you are literally the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. So like always checking in with like, it's not just about physical presence, but it's also looking at like, who are you engaging with online? Like, where are you putting your energy? Because especially social media, that's a big energy sucker. So I say to my clients, at least once a month, do a social media cleanse, unfollow, mute, do whatever you need to, and ask yourself, like, is that current energy and environment serving me for what I'm working on right now? Same with your physical presence, their environments around you. and start to recognize and have that self-check-in. I'd say at least like once a month.
Yeah,
stuff like that.
100%, because like, especially again with the industry that we're in, if you're somebody that's feeling self-conscious and you're like going onto social media comparing yourself to all these people that are in shape rather than looking at them as inspiration, just delete it, remove it, get rid of it. You don't need to see it. Or if you don't want to delete them, mute them, so you don't actually see their content coming up. Like, it's protecting yourself in that sense, right? Until you're in a position where you can look at that and be like, oh, fair play, you know, amazing, they're smashing it. Until you're at that level of like independence and confidence, essentially, out of sight, out of mind is probably the best thing in general. But just to wrap this up, I'm gonna ask you a more personal question in terms of like yourself, and I feel like what's the biggest thing that you have learned over the years of like tapping into your body more, being like more aware of your surroundings, your environments, the energy around you? What would be the main thing that you learned about yourself, I suppose?
A couple of things, actually. Always believe your body. Your body is literally communicating to you all of the time. So many things. So that's a big one, because I was ignoring a lot of my cues from my body a lot. So when you start to connect, like if you're doing all the mindset work but neglecting the body, this is why they all work in synergy, and this is why I coach body, mind and soul, because without that it doesn't mean anything. So working on your body or you're working on your mind, you need to kind of do it in synergy to be able to like really be able to recognize what is going on around you and have your eyes like open. So that's one thing I'd say, is like massively believe and trust what your body's telling you, the signs, the signals, everything. And then I'd say, like, to be really bluntly, like it's not this amazing, exciting, like, oh my god, I'm healing, like
matcha and Pilates.
It's probably like when you really are starting to unfold a lot of like stuff that you probably put in like Pandora's box, and you kept that there for years. You've got to recognize that you are deconditioning yourself probably from 15 to 20 years of stuff that has happened, that has molded you to who you are today, and you're choosing you want different. So you've got to recognize that doesn't happen in 6 weeks, 6 months, 6 years even sometimes. But if you are consciously making that choice to evolve and want better for yourself, that's going to come with a rough ride at the same time, as well as the highs, you know. So they say it's always like this, but whenever anything is going on, it's about recognizing like it is happening for you, not to you. And I always use the analogy of like, if you think about drawing back like a bow and arrow, it has to draw back to fly forward 10 times faster. If you're just like pulling it back, and then it's not really going to go anywhere. So sometimes like in life, you are going to feel like you're going backwards in some cases, because you are like unraveling all of this conditioning that you've carried with you, belief systems, everything. But then you think you actually, it's going to be projected forwards, and it's constantly about coming back to that. It's like ride the highs, but also equally sit in the lows, but sit with them with self-compassion. And often I say to people, like, healing doesn't happen when you're at that sound bath, when you're doing that breath work, when you listen to that podcast, when you're in the gym hitting it hard. Like, healing happens, especially as a woman, in that empty space where you can surrender and sit with it and not judge yourself for how you're feeling or what you're feeling, and allow yourself to just feel and really be in that space. Because I tell you, if you do that, that is where you're integrating all of that work, Pilates, sound bath, breathwork, this. So you're actually integrating it to be able to rise from that as well. I go back to the analogy of like a rose. It doesn't just turn in the soil like it turns in the shit. It needs rain to grow, it needs watering, and then it starts to sprout. But as that rose starts to grow, like, it equally has thorns that it has to push past through. And then that looks like, oh my God, why have I hit this such painful time? But then beyond that pain, you're then practicing for next time to have discernment, to still have an open heart, but practice having discernment, to have boundaries so that you can then grow and eventually get to that flower head where it's round and round and round, and that's your journey. You're evolving at such a higher height now, and you're learning how to have these boundaries and practice discernment more. So I don't know if that made sense. But
Absolutely. And you know what? I love listening to you because you're so passionate about it. Like, this is where your passion lies, 100%.
Yeah.
And we're going to wrap this up here. I'm just going to leave that as a little
Thank
mic drop
you.
at the end there.
Love that.
But thank you so much for
Thank
coming
you
on.
for having me.
Honestly, it's been a pleasure
Thank
having you.
you.
And so interesting as well.
Love that.
Very
We
interesting.
need to do a series.
Every week we're back with Alice.
Love that.
No, I love it. Well, thank you so much for coming on, of course. And thank you everybody for listening. And I'll see you all next Wednesday.